Hello everybody and welcome to this video on AQA English Language Paper 2 Question 5. We're looking at the mark scheme for the highest bands. It's one of a series, so hopefully you're looking at the entire playlist. If not, do make sure you check out the playlist. So question 5 presents you with a opinion of, very strong opinion, which you then have to write your own view on. It's a sort of persuasive piece. Even if you're just presenting your viewpoint, you're essentially trying to persuade. And the mark scheme for the highest band mentions to be convincing and compelling. Yesterday we looked at convincing, today we're going to look at compelling. Just a reminder that everything comes from my ebook, which you can get for £3.99 by following the links in the description. So we looked at convincing, but now let's look at compelling. So the idea of writing a piece of persuasive writing that is compelling, there's sort of two sides to this. One, for me, is that you actually are so convincing and persuasive that you actually make the reader want to act on what you're writing about. And that really comes down to what I was talking about in yesterday's video. But the other thing that we think about when we think about something, a piece of writing being compelling, is that it is powerful and irresistible, as definition 2 shows us here. In other words, you want to read on. Now, this is something that I found very interesting working with a number of students recently, is how work can structurally become quite boring after a while. So I was marking a piece of work yesterday. Now I'm going to change the topic, but let's say it was argue for or against animal testing. Okay, and the student had written a very strong idea to begin with. So let's suggest that the idea they started with was something along the lines of we shouldn't do animal testing because it hurts the animals. It's dangerous to the animals. Okay, and that was their opening paragraph, and that was fine, and it was compelling, and it was well written, and it was very good. But the argument didn't really move on beyond that. So actually, paragraph 2 was just really more about how animals are mistreated in animal testing. And paragraph 3 was again the same idea, but it was just some statistics to back it up. And I found myself just drifting off. I found myself thinking, okay, you've made that point. I get it. Now let's move on. What else do you have to say? Or do you only really have one idea that you want to present? And that's an example of how not to be compelling. To be compelling means to have an opening that grabs the reader's attention, but actually the whole thing keeps you interested. And one of the easy ways to do that is to structure your piece in the sense that you're not repeating yourself or overdoing a certain point, but you've actually got, let's say, 3 or 4 ideas that you're presenting in long paragraphs. And then when you've fully explained the one idea, you move on to the next one. And also, this is something, if we go back to the animal testing idea, you also need to think about, presenting the problem, but also presenting a solution to the problem. Or, as I talked about yesterday, anticipating your reader's response and arguing against that. So after you've written a nice detailed paragraph about the danger that is caused to animals by animal testing, and that includes statistics and anecdotes and all the rest of it, then the next section of your piece could be, well, what are the other options? Okay, so I know that they're developing robots that can do the testing, and it doesn't have to be on human flesh. So the next paragraph could be about that. And then another paragraph could be about something slightly different. Perhaps, our desire to reduce the amount of products that we use that are tested on animals. But that's the way you're going to be compelling. And one of the things to think about here is, in order to be compelling, you've got to have enough ideas to keep a piece moving, to keep a piece flowing, a piece of writing. I would say 70% of all of the work I look at, and that's from, vast experience as an examiner, a teacher, a private tutor, the vast majority of students, their answers start well. They present their strongest idea to begin with. But by the time you get halfway through the piece of writing, you can feel that they've run out of ideas. So they either present the same idea or they present weaker ideas. So the planning stage of this question is essential. If you're going to be compelling, you probably need to think of 3 or 4 different parts of your argument or your persuasive piece, and then you need to structure your work that when you fully explain one, you move on to the next one. And that's how to be compelling in question 2 of paper 5, question 5 of paper 2. I hope you found this video useful, guys. Please do subscribe to the channel and pick up the ebook by following the links in the description.